Good morning. Welcome back to Passionate World Radio Network. To become successful, one must place themselves in the path of a giant. Passionate World Radio Network. And this morning, we have a special guest on Lillian's interview. His name is Darius Norman, and he's a financial person. And he is going to discuss with you how to handle your finances during disasters, natural or otherwise. Good morning, Darius. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Good morning.
I am delighted you're here. As you know, the United States has been hit by several different types of disasters, the fires out in California, the hurricanes in Texas, Florida, and Puerto Rico, and some tornadoes that went through North Carolina and South Carolina yesterday. So how do people plan for disaster before it strikes financially?
I would always encourage everybody, and the people I coach, I always encourage everybody to build up a reserve account in terms of saving, because when a rainy day comes along, like the disasters we have encountered naturally here in the United States, you're going to need some reserve funds to address any issues in pertaining to you may be losing your home, or you may run out of food. So the first step would be to build up reserve funds.
And then how do you plan for example, even though the U.S. mail always gets through, for things like credit cards and mortgage payments that, for whatever the reason, they get mailed out, and if you don't pay on a monthly basis, then you get punished?
Absolutely. Well, the first step would be to contact your financial institution who is maybe financing your home mortgage or your car loan or your credit card. Contact them and inform them of the disaster that you may be encountering. And a lot of the financial institutions have a service in place to protect you against some setbacks, or if you had an emergency like losing your home or a fire, or you had just a setback overall, you can contact your financial institution and discuss with them the matter. And a lot of your financial institutions, such as your mortgage lender or your credit card company, they will work with you in terms of maybe making some adjustments to the payment or extending your pay date to a later date.
And this also is in regard to if you have parents or you're taking care of somebody as a caregiver and something happens to them. Should you have something set up in reserve just in case where your caregiver or your kids can make a payment for you while you're out and trying to recollect yourself?
Absolutely. I think that would be very astute. I think that's proactive. As in, with that, you should make sure that you have power of attorney if you have a parent or a relative who is elderly and may not be able to be independent in regards to maintaining their monthly expenses. I will always encourage people to make sure they have power of attorney so they can contact the companies to outreach them in regards to maybe some setbacks financially. Because one thing you should do that with this recent breach of the Equifax breach, that's a major breach, and a lot of people, in particular those companies, are afraid of hacks and thieves. So you should make sure that you have your paperwork lined up so you can contact those companies if you have an elderly parent of such.
So one of the things I guess could also be recommended, and I have done that myself, is you sit down with whoever is an extension of you, whether it's an immediate family or a good neighbor or whatever, and make sure you write down all your accounts with all the different numbers that are affiliated with them, and then a contact person, and, of course, the phone number to put it in a safe place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's proactive.
All right, so if you're setting up people, you're going into such a place like Puerto Rico, which is the hardest hit by the hurricane and it's been the most devastated. How would you go in and start working with the folks down there?
Well, the first step, again, my first step would be to assess the damage that they have incurred. I would like to figure out, like you stated earlier, what accounts do they have? Do they have a mortgage? Do they have a credit card bill? Do they have a car loan? And then my first step would be to assist those families in regards to outreaching those companies if they're not late on their payments. I would sit down with those clients and encourage them to outreach those companies to discuss their matter. That would be the first step.
And I would think, too, that a lot of what you do is education. You go in there and tell people or suggest to people how they can set up contingency plans in which they can then fall upon when bad things happen.
Absolutely. And in regards to your credit, too, especially when you're encountering any kind of natural disaster of losing your home, it would be very important to stay on top of your credit and make sure you're not going to obtain any late payments. And the first step would be to outreach that company of your mortgage or your car loan. So definitely, you definitely need to be on top of that when in terms of your credit.
Now, when the people come in and they come in to assess the damage that's been done, either to your home or to your credit or to whatever, how do people approach them? You hear in the news, especially now, that they have thousands of people lining up to talk to people, whether it's flood insurance or fire insurance. And how do you go about talking to these folks to protect yourself?
Well, first of all, again, you should have all of you, like you said, a contingency plan. You should have all your documentation of all your policies. Make sure that they're updated to align with protecting yourself with getting the coverage of maybe receiving the flood damage stipend, or even with your car. Make sure you contact your car insurance company and to ensure that your car is protected under that particular damage. If you might encounter flood damage with your car and your car suffers some flood damage. Also, as a consumer, I would like to inform your audience, a lot of American consumers, especially the ones who recently had these natural disasters, there are some protection agencies that are available for them, state and federal-wise, protect them against some of the maybe fraud with some of the insurance companies, because some of the insurance companies are going to try to, lowball or not pay out the actual funds for the damage. So, first of all, I would also encourage your audience to contact the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau if they don't know about this particular bureau. It was put in place back in 2010 to protect consumers against some of the fraudulent financial practices that the insurance companies as well as the financial institutions engage in with consumers. And they have jurisdiction over the mortgage lending companies, the debt collection agencies, the credit reporting agencies, as well as the insurance companies. Also, the second step would be to, if you're having any red tape, contact your state office, your Consumer Protection Office, which is the State Attorney General's office. Contact them if you're encountering any issues with the insurance company not processing your claim, or they're denying your claim. So those will be two steps to protect yourself in regards to as a consumer.
And what do you think about using your cell phone or a camera to take pictures of either a said car or of your house to prove that first this is how it was originally and now how it is after?
Oh, absolutely. Pictures is the best thing to take because that's a great recollection in regards to the before and after of the damage. And so the companies you can build up a case, and you can also keep a build a paper trail in regards to you getting your claim process. And if there's some issues in regards to your insurance company not being able to process your claim appropriately, you have proof. So that would be a great strategy.
I would think so. And just kind of further along, how do you protect yourself when you go out to buy a car, for example, that has been affected by a fire or been affected by a flood, but you don't know that? Do you have any advice to people before they spend their hard-earned dollars to go out and buy a car?
Definitely. The first step would be to go ahead, look at a car, determine, because once the car is damaged, all the insurance companies have to report that through a data system called Carfax. So the first step would be to go online and look at Carfax and put the car's VIN number in, and that VIN number would determine and tell you if this car has been in a had a flood damage, or been engaged in a fire, or it's had this car has had 3-4 accidents. That would be the first step to protect yourself. Also, get with a dealership that you know have to have cars certified. That would be the second step.
Good, because I know that a lot of people, when they had the flooding, for example, down in Houston has a large market for used cars. A lot of states do. In fact, it's probably larger than their new car inventory. And unless you're knowledgeable about how to protect yourself, there's no way for most people to really tell whether or not this car's had a previous history in a natural disaster or not.
Absolutely. And like I said before, to be proactive would be to go online and go on to Carfax and obtain that car's VIN number. And also, if you know a mechanic and you trust a particular mechanic or a wreck shop, they can give you an estimation for free to determine if there's been any kind of damage.
Well, that's good to know. So, folks, I hope you're taking your notes, because this is important information, and it's not always ready available by people on the phone, and it takes you a while to look this stuff up on the Internet if you don't know how to look. Now, would this apply to if you build a house, for example, down in Florida, and you have a sinkhole that suddenly appears? What would you go about to protect you and your asset? Because your house is very much your number one asset.
Absolutely. Well, I would definitely encourage people who may have had a sinkhole, definitely contact your home insurance agency and discuss that matter, because that should be protected under your home insurance policy. And you should contact your mortgage lender also and discuss that matter, because if there is a sinkhole, that will decrease and diminish your property value if your home insurance does not cover that expense and you don't have the actual resources financially to do it on your own. That could really diminish your value of your property, because then it becomes a risk to not only you but the safety of others if you wanted to put it back on the market.
Now, as for somebody who plans for people with handling their money, how important is it for anybody to start looking into what would happen if senior?
Say that last part again.
Sure. I mean, a lot of kids who go out, they buy their homes, they go out, invest in their cars, they go about their normal life. When do you suggest to people that they start setting up plans to protect themselves from some of the disasters that happen?
Well, the first step would be to, again, maybe also create you some investment. Maybe obtain you a mutual fund. Maybe obtain you a 529 for disasters of this such. Also, make sure that your life insurance policies are updated also, because your life insurance policy does have a protection service in there if you do encounter some type of um, setback financially in regards to a natural disaster. A lot of consumers don't know that, but you have to contact your insurance company and discuss that matter.
I would think so. I know that when you're first starting out, a lot of people don't understand how well to protect themselves because the saying there's never been a tornado here. Well, there was a tornado in North and South Carolina, and you don't consider that prime tornado problems. A lot of people don't get out flood insurance, but that doesn't protect them from a hurricane that drives the water inland by about 50 miles. So what kind of things should people really consider for protection against things that may have not occurred 10 years ago but now have a better chance of happening?
Well, again, contact your insurance company who is insuring your home or your car and discuss, because you can get actually flood protection services. Most insurance companies they're very minimal to add into your actual policy. The price is really not a difference. So if you have a premium maybe of $500 to $600 a year in terms of your home insurance, and if you tack on flood insurance, it would probably make a difference of $10 a month. So I would encourage people to just discuss it with your agent. Also, a lot of people don't understand, even with your car and your car insurance, you have if you don't ask for it, a lot of insurance companies will not inform you of it, but you have insurance that will protect you against uninsured motorists or flood damages or fire damages or gap insurance. So in the price to incur that particular protection is very minimal. It can range between $10 to $20 a month extra into your policy payment.
That's good to know, because I know that a lot of millennials don't really understand how the insurance game is played.
Absolutely.
Or how to protect themselves from things that may or may happen. And these days, with the climate being what it is, there's no guarantee that you're safe and that you need some form of protection to keep you from becoming bankrupt, from replacing your house, your car, furniture, or taking care of your parents or a neighbor if you really don't know or understand what's available out there for you.
Right. And can I interject here? Because with my home insurance on my personal home, I have a protection, and it's very minimal. I pay an extra $5 a month for furniture protection. So if I encounter maybe a tree falling on my home, or my home has a fire damage, it would cover all of my items in my home. I have like a $20,000 furniture coverage, and it would cover everything and replenish everything that I have personally. So that's a great protection.
And you also might want to include if you have a collection of paintings or crystal or something that you've inherited and it's been in the family for 100 years. Folks don't laugh. Go out and get it appraised.
Absolutely.
And put it down somewhere outside of your house. I mean, some people put them in the freezer, so if the house burns down, it won't melt the freezer part, just the ice.
Right.
But, think of ways that you can put your really important documents. I mean, we have a home safe. Nobody knows where it is. We know what it is, but in case of a fire or even somebody dropping a bomb out of a plane by mistake or a spaceship hits us, we're protected. And while you cannot replace what's been destroyed, at least you'll get the equivalent of its value.
Absolutely. And also to protect your impertinent documents and paperwork, you can actually obtain a mailbox or a lock safe from Regis. Regis provides a safe if you want to protect your documents for a minimum payment of $20 a month.
And I suggest you look into it, because you don't want to have that uh-oh moment.
Absolutely.
Because I know that some people do, and after the fact, it's too late.
Absolutely.
Darius, could you please tell everybody what you do so they know your authority on the subject of finances?
Okay, so I'm a consumer advocate, credit repair specialist, and I'm a certified social worker, which I have had experience for 13 years. You can contact me. I'm an author also of the book entitled Rewriting Financial Rules. I'd love to consult with people in regards to credit if they're having tremendous credit setbacks. My role would be to coach that individual to address those immediate woes and to help them boost their credit scores if they're having any concerns or issues. I also do financial planning, so if people or consumers are looking into maybe obtaining, mutual funds or life securities, mutual funds, life insurance policies, or to maybe get a different rate, I coach people in regards to that matter. I have a website entitled rewritingfinancialrules.llc.com, and you can outreach me if you want to consult with me directly.
That's terrific. So I bet you have a few things to say about the new tax plans that are trying to be the law of the land soon.
Yeah, I to be honest with you, I'm kind of mute because the issue I'm taking with the tax plan, I'm not against taxes being readjusted. I'm kind of concerned about the itemized deductions being taken away and the household itemization being reduced, where if you're a single person, you can't claim as head of household. So that's a big concern for me.
I would love to get you back on and talk about what they're planning to do with a 401k plan, because the money they're going to save from that, of course, is going to pay for the fact of having a tax cut in the first place. I'd be delighted to speak with you about it because I really don't think people understand what's at stake here. In order to do what you want, especially when you cut taxes, you still have to find a way to pay for it.
Absolutely.
And you have to really examine how these folks are planning to pay for it. And while they sweep over some of the things, there are other things that they're dropping hints and taglines about that the middle class really ought to pay attention to, because it directly affects our pocketbook.
Absolutely. And the dog and pony show, I would say, is they sweep it under and say, well, each American consumer or family may receive a $1,000 to $2,000 increase because of the tax break.
No. We only get about $30. I think it's 15 or somewhere between 15 and $30. So it isn't a real huge amount. It's the very wealthy that really does very well out of this, which doesn't really surprise me because most of our career-driven politicians, and of course under the original fathers, they did not believe in career politicians. But be that as it may, moving right along, as they say, they're the only ones who really profit from it, the same way with the taxes on the businesses. And I got to tell you, I'm a small business, and we get hurt either way.
I know you do. In particular, if you're LLC and your flow is not lucrative or it's not fluid as it should be. I mean, I know the taxation is out of control. I have to endure with it myself.
So we will discuss this, and if you know of anybody who you would believe would like to join in the conversation, please bring them along. The more, the merrier.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Darius, for putting up with some of my oddball questions. Ladies and gentlemen, you can find this interview all over again at https://passionateworldradionetwork.com, on YouTube, TuneIn, iTunes, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Just put in PWRN LLC or PWRN. Trust me, you'll find us. And before you go away and stray, Herrick had this to say: kings ought to shear, not skin their sheep. Thank you all very much for listening. And remember, to become successful, one must place themselves in the path of a giant. Passionate World Radio Network. Thank you very much for listening. And remember, please keep listening. Thank you.